Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. More than 1,000 people recently attended the 2018 March for Babies, a pro-life, anti-abortion rally held annually to support the right of unborn children to have a life just like you did. A strong police presence watched on as people peacefully marched from the Treasury Gardens to Parliament House to demand a change to the law.
Just arrived at the March for Babies. Ran into the unshackled Logan. Hey mate, doing his own filming. And the crazy troll Neil Erikson. How's it going, mate?
What's going on, mate? We're here for the kids. We're here for the kids, the babies.
Yeah, we don't want to be killing babies anymore. It's pretty bad.
I'm only on my best behaviour sometimes, and today's one of them. I come to support the kids.
And this is Logan.
Vlogging each other right now.
Yeah. I'm Maddie. Subscribe to my channel, Maddie's Modern Life.
Yeah, and I'm Logan. At the moment, I'm trying to build up my channel. Just Logan Spalding.
Okay. You just go on the name right there.
Yeah.
And then we have some crazy chica loca wearing yellow to blend in. Hello. Welcome, Dia. Say something to the camera.
What's going on? I'm for women's rights, which means babies' rights, because babies who get murdered sometimes are babies, are women, are girls.
Babies get murdered, sometimes babies.
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm not sounding very smart. Sometimes babies who get terminated are girls, so we're at their rights. There we go. Edit it that way, please, Logan.
Never asked me to edit it out though.
Counter rally against the March for the Babies. It's like,
Yeah, it sounds moronic.
Yeah.
So stupid. Counter rally for the March for Babies. So what March for murder?
At the end of the day, they say no pride in genocide, but this is genocide. You know how many babies are killed? I think it was like
It's 260,000 in Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, and I think in Australia about a few years ago, it was like 83,000 something for the year. You know, and that's if a government went around and started murdering adults at that rate, that'd be considered genocide. So why is it not genocide when it happens to babies?
What do you say to the argument that women have a right to choose with their own body?
Well, it's not their body when it's a baby's body, right? Because they'll say things like, "You're a man, you don't have any right to say this." But I'll use an example that Ben Shapiro used: is if someone was bashing up their dog in the backyard, right? It's got nothing to do with me. It's not my dog. It's not my backyard. But I still am able to make a moral decision. We all know that is an immoral thing to do, to bash up an innocent animal. So you don't have to be the dog, you don't have to be the person bashing it to know that it is wrong to do so.
Yes, and also, like you pointed out, like it's the baby's body, and you are ultimately killing a human being, are you not? Because had you left the child to its own devices, it would have grown most likely into a fully grown human in pretty much every instance, other than a few tragedy.
Yeah, exactly. And there was this one thing I was gonna say. I'm trying to recall it actually. So no, I forgot it. Hang on, just let me think. Just edit like this one part out.
Yeah, totally. I'll edit it out.
Because they say they're pro-choice, but they've got to make their choices before they decide to have sex with someone. Because they know what the sex is going to create if they do it unprotected. It's going to make a baby. And left to its own devices, left to a natural process, it has a potential for life. So, because they bring up the argument of, maybe the baby will have a bad life, a low quality of life. It's like, well then, if the baby will have a low quality of life, should I go around stabbing homeless people just to help them out? Because they'll have a low quality of life. Like, anything that applies to the unborn should also apply to adults as well. So, because it is considered a double murder if you murder a pregnant woman. But then all of a sudden, the feminists will say, "Oh, no, it's actually, I consider this baby not alive because it's a fetus." You know what fetus means in Latin? Small child. So it's already a child.
This is Frank. He was just a bloke that attended the march who offered an interesting perspective.
Christopher Hitchens made it quite clear that a very strong case in atheistic terms can be made for the anti-abortion argument, because the atheists don't believe in an afterlife. Of course, Christians do, and so people of faith often do. And he says, well, if the atheist doesn't believe in any life after this, then what right has he got to kill his child that only has this one chance at life?
Exactly.
Here he is.
Murray.
What's going on, my man? Johnny Moore.
Yep, Johnny Moore here.
What have you got to say?
I got to say, I'm proud of the turnout and happy people are here to stand up for like childbirth and babies, just so they after, especially think about it, late term, especially what I'm most concerned about, and I'm pretty sure what a lot of people are concerned about here, 7 to 9 months especially, or even for that matter, the baby is alive and in stomach. It's not part of the woman's body. It's an individual developing inside the woman's body, in the womb. And so that's what we're here marching for. So we're marching for pro-life reasons, and we're here to march for babies because we think that abortion is like not a good thing, and we just think that's just some sort of a feminist ideal, and people just don't care anymore. And so we're proud of the turnout here, and we're standing up for like children and babies.
And what have you got to say to the army of the undead who are counter-protesting?
I say, do you have a heart? Do you even understand? Do you even acknowledge it or even think about it for a second? Do you think about the science behind childbirth?
Of course they don't, and they don't have hearts, they're undead.
Well, I can't complain with that. Keep on crying, lefties.
Alright, so I'm here at the March for Babies, where we've got quite a large turnout, and lots of people here demonstrating for the right of unborn children to have a life. It's actually amazing that we actually have to protest for the right of a fellow human being to actually have a life. I don't know why we have to. Well, I do know why. The left have taken control of the culture over the last 50 years, but it's actually fantastic that so many people have turned out. I'm actually surprised that many families have actually come here as well. Dia just pushed me because she's clumsy. Latins, they're good at soccer, but they're not very good at footy, if you know what I mean. They can just jump into you. But yeah, I'm really happy. It's great. Already run into Neil Erikson, Johnny Moore, who's filming this little piece of camera vlog thing. So, g'day, mate. And it's good. I'm going to have a look around, maybe ask a few more questions of people from the organisation. But so far, it's really good. Apparently, the counter rally's this way, so we're going to go and get a few pictures of the army of the undead. We're going to see if Sauron has his power over the undead horde up here. The undead horde were a little further away than I thought, so I headed back to the march. It struck me how many families were there, but it does make sense. The people most likely to favour abortion are also more likely to be childless. Therefore, those against it must be more likely to have their own family. There's nothing like your own child to bring about a sense of perspective on this issue. On the walk, I chit-chatted with this lovely lady, and we even spotted our first undead warrior. So what did the feral say?
I couldn't really make out what he was saying. It was some kind of mumbo jumbo. No, I don't know.
I heard him call us all murderers, which is funny because we're literally here wanting to stop the killing of kids. Outside Parliament, people gathered to hear the speakers, and I got word that the commies had also gathered. The police separated the undead communists from the march by about 100 metres, so it was hard to make out their mindless chants. Walking around was a police officer with a camera to document and profile people attending. More evidence of the Daniel Andrews socialist police state. Before the speakers started, we all sung the national anthem. The commies wouldn't have any of it. They actually sat down for the national anthem. You should have kneeled, you might have got a sponsorship from Nike. Not to be intimidated, Dia went in for a closer look. I considered asking her for the footage, but we all know what they are like already.
What was that? 1488? You Nazi piece of shit. Hey, on a scale of 1 to go yourself, how much of a racist are you? You fucking dog.
The speakers began their speeches, but were soon hilariously interrupted by the strong, well-reasoned argument of loud noise, chanting, and crying like a baby.
Hang on, let the police in. Our bodies.
It's a nice mullet, actually. Clever mullet. So we just had a couple of protesters just got shipped off pretty quickly, chanting our bodies, our rights, and then squealing like babies. About sums up the argument that they've got. It's just squealing and yelling.
They had demon horns, which proves my theory that they're
Australian
demonically-
meditations here.
G'day.
How's it?
They had demon horns, which proves my theory that they're demonically possessed. I've always said that.
Well, they are demonically possessed.
They truly are demonically possessed, and they should be exercised, I reckon.
They're NPCs. Our body, our right, our body, our right. Blair Cottrell showed up to show his support for the lives of the unborn.
I came a little late and the police tried to prevent me from entering the area. They said I was told to move on and so I had to leave the area. I said, am I breaking the law by standing here? I don't understand, I'm just here to see the speakers. And then their superior officer came over and said, no, he's alright, he's alright. So yeah.
Interesting. He just said, when Daniel Andrews gets his way, he gets you coming and going. Referring to the fact that he legalised abortion and then he legalised euthanasia. It's quite clever. The turnout was great. As usual, the communists were outnumbered at least 10 to 1, and it was good to see so many people willing to stand up for a non-leftist cause. There's definitely been a shift in the culture. More and more people are getting fed up with society's move to the left. At the end of the day, this was just one rally on one issue. There is still a long way to go. Society is in a pit of nihilism devoid of meaning. We are more and more divided, and the fact that there are literally people protesting for the right to kill their own babies, even if it's just 50 of them, is not good. It's shameful. They really are just NPCs operating on a basic program of anyone who disagrees with me is racist, sexist, homophobic, you name it. We need to add new software that values life, liberty, and property, and demands freedom from violence for all people. I'm realising more than ever the mountainous task ahead of saving our nation from the pit of leftist hell. But the more people we have who are willing to stand up in the face of demonic opposition, the easier that task will become. I hope you enjoyed the vlog. Check out my other content, consider subscribing, and even leaving a small donation. Take care, and I'll see you when I see you.